Hi, I'm Jennifer Warren, and I have with me today Professor Rowena Gan from SMU Cox School of Business, and she's an information tech and operations management professor. And we're here to discuss her paper that was recently published in Management Science called Decentralized Platforms, Governance, Tokenomics, and ICO Design. Thank you for taking the time, Rowena. I appreciate
Of course. Thank you
it.
for having me, Jennifer.
Yeah. So we'll dive right in. This work is really cutting edge, and obviously the whole research on blockchain and crypto and all that is very, very, state of the art and new, novel. And you published a paper before that we profiled. Since your last paper on ICO economics, which is initial coin offerings,
Yes.
what motivated you to do this work?
So there are some similarities between our old paper and this one. So last paper was also about ICOs, but the model really captures a capped ICO. And what I mean by capped is that during the ICO, the number of tokens sold to the speculators or to the investors is capped by a maximum amount. And that maximum number is set by the issuer. So in the past, in the other paper, we modeled that type of ICO mainly because they're more commonly seen than uncapped ICOs. I believe it's about like 90% of all the ICOs in the past have been capped. So we went for that first. And then in this paper, we thought, well, we've done the capped ones, but one fact that we also know is that some of the most successful ICOs, or some of the ICOs that have raised the most amount of money, have been uncapped, meaning that during the ICO, there isn't really a cap on the number of tokens sold. And whatever the speculators want to buy will eventually become the token supply. So because they have been so successful, we're wondering what's special about them. And also in the past paper, we studied physical production, meaning that the ICO tokens will be used to purchase a specific product. But this time we're studying platforms, and more specifically, it's a peer-to-peer, two-sided platform.
Right.
So that's the difference. We're just thinking that we're exploring a different type of ICO, and that's applied to a different setting.
Yeah. And specifically, in the paper you talked about on these the platforms, and you're talking about, there's more centralized platforms, kind of like Amazon, and then that's a two-sided platform, but these platforms are different in nature. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Oh, so you mean
Like what
yeah.
you're talking about in your paper, because you do compare and contrast like the Amazon type platform versus, like Filecoin type platforms. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about what the scope is of the research,
Yes. So essentially, this paper is about platform economics. More specifically, we study the revenue models of platforms. So as you said, Amazon is a two-sided platform. Filecoin is a two-sided platform. So for those who are not familiar, Filecoin is a decentralized storage network. So users basically, they can rent out their unused hard drive space in exchange for Filecoin tokens. So there will be people who have extra space, and there will be people who need space. Therefore, we need this kind of market. So it's like Airbnb, but for your data
right?
rather than for your body.
Right.
So
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
So so obviously there's one big difference, and that is that Filecoin is blockchain based. So instead of using fiat currencies, they're using their own tokens. But from a platform governing perspective, so if you're interested in their revenue model, then all of these platforms have two main revenue models. One is through token retention, meaning that obviously that's for blockchain-based platforms. So Amazon is not one of them.
Right.
So token retention means that you pre-sell your future production in the form of tokens during an ICO.
Right.
Right. And then you retain part of the token supply. Then after the platform launches, you sell the token that you retained for yourself. So that's one token model called token retention.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is platform commission, which should be more commonly known because like Amazon, Uber, all of those traditional two-sided markets use platform commission. So through platform commission, the platform is able to extract a certain percentage of the revenue from each transaction. Of course, that would be after the platform launch. So there are basically two types of revenue models. And Amazon is using platform commission.
Yep.
And Filecoin is using token retention.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who are familiar with other similar types of platforms, you will see that most of them use one of the two, and some of them use both of them, both mechanisms.
Right.
So what we are studying is whether or under what conditions should a platform use one or the other, and also what are the benefits or disadvantages of using either revenue model.
Right. So really, this is really, a serious, economic model look at two-sided platforms and how you structure your ICO, what model you use. Filecoin, is theirs all token retention model or is it blended? Is there an example?
It's all token retention.
It's all token retention. Yeah, because they're publicly traded, I noticed too. Is there anybody that is doing what you're talking about, like this hybrid version of commission and token retention that you know of?
I think Uniswap did both.
Mm.
They had a capped I think it's capped, but they did an ICO, and since they're a exchange, they're a decentralized exchange. For every transaction, Uniswap is taking a percentage of that transaction volume.
Yeah. And that's on top of the Ethereum blockchain is what you
exactly
mentioned. Yeah. So you talk about that the token retention model aligns with the tenets of decentralized governance. Can you talk a little bit about that aspect or your findings related to it?
So there are many ways to define decentralization, but we are looking at a specific aspect. So what happens is, so our paper compares platform commission to token retention. And we find that through a platform commission, the platform is able to extract service providers' profit. Remember, the platform is two-sided, right? So there's service providers, there's customers who use the service provider's service. So these are the two-sided. So what this means is that, so commission extracts service providers' profit. And what this leads to is that the prices of the service will have to adjust upwards to avoid service providers dropping out, because because now you're taking a percentage of their payment, right? And the higher the commission, the more you extract from their revenue, the less revenues providers get to keep, because each service provider incurs a cost for their service, and a higher commission makes it more difficult for them to overcome their own service cost.
Right.
And higher prices also mean that less customers will be able to afford the service.
Right.
So what happens is that the service level, the entire number of customers served, will go down if you charge a higher commission.
Right. Right.
Meaning that
Yeah.
fewer people will be able to enjoy the benefit of the platform.
Right.
So that's what we mean by decreased level of decentralization.
Right.
But token retention does not extract service providers' profit. So, and in fact, under many conditions, positive profit is possible for the service providers, which leads to a higher service level or more decentralized governance.
What it reminds me of is just like in an IPO, when the firm, keeps a percentage of the ownership, they're retaining ownership. So that's in my mind, I kind of look at it in terms of a stock issuance, right? And kind of what the
Very
economic.
similar.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it makes sense because the owner, the firm at the firm level, whether it's Uniswap or Filecoin, they have skin in the game through ownership, when they retain. And so it's kind of it's a good comparison to kind of, if you're having a hard time wrapping your head around this is what this is happening. And one thing I was going to ask you too is, in what way do you see Bitcoin relating to your paper? I'm just asking from, because it just came to mind.
Mhm. Yeah, I know many people when I ask them how much do you know about blockchain, they will tell me that, oh, I know what Bitcoin is. So
Right.
it seems like Bitcoin is really famous. It's really big.
Sure.
Um, so I can say a few words on this. So we talk about token in my papers.
Right.
But the token that we study is a platform specific token.
Right.
This means that there is an entrepreneur or there is an issuer, and this issuer issues his own tokens for the sole purpose of um, financing his or her own platform. And those tokens will be used to purchase the platform's products or services.
Right.
But Bitcoin is not designed to be related to any platform. It's just it so it people have claimed that Bitcoin is the digital gold. So it's really a medium of exchange.
Right.
But both Bitcoin and our platform specific tokens are cryptocurrencies.
Right.
That's the main similarity.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference is that the value of any platform specific token is derived from the value of the platform or the value of the platform service.
Mm-hmm.
But the value of Bitcoin stems from its potential to serve as a medium of exchange. And ultimately, our paper is really about platform economics
Right.
rather than a type of crypto.
Right, right. That's, yeah, an important distinction. When these firms, let's just call it the firm, the issuer,
Yeah.
when they launch an ICO, I mean, you could have, ad infinitum numbers of coin offerings, token types. I mean, and you would think that there's got to be some convergence on what is, popularly believed, tokens, right? That there's got to be some, concentration at some point, just for the market, for there to be, depth and liquidity in the market over time, right? I mean, that's just what was coming to mind when you were saying all that. I mean, in what ways is your paper, what are your thoughts related to that idea, or is that out, beyond what we're discussing?
Did you mean that if I think there would ultimately be any convergence towards a single type of a single
Some
a single
coins. Yeah. Yeah, like,
crypto or
yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, if you feel like discussing that or going there, just kind of, yeah, maybe what you're seeing in terms of token economics even, right? So.
I think so. To me, what makes sense is that a specific platform will have its own platform specific tokens.
Mm-hmm.
But since there's such a liquid secondary market, um, token exchange should be very easy. So it really doesn't matter how many tokens are out there. And because um, changing from Filecoin token to Ether, which is the Ethereum token, is really easy, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not like it's controlled by any government or anything because the everything takes place on the blockchain.
Right.
So I actually don't think that we need to convert to a single type of cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm.
That's my take.
Yeah.
But that's only for platform specific tokens. But if you want to ask um, if it's possible that eventually we will be using one type of cryptocurrency just as a medium of exchange, then I think it's possible because if you think about cryptocurrencies that are just designed to serve as a medium of exchange, there's Bitcoin, there's Litecoin, and there's some stable coins,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I see high substitutability between those tokens. Um, so it is possible that one day we're all going to use Bitcoin, or one day we're all going to use whatever substitute of Bitcoin.
Right.
But again, exchanging one uh, exchanging your Bitcoin for another coin is very easy.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think both are possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
I don't
that's
know if I
really.
answered your questions.
No, absolutely. No, that was really great. I mean, that really is good context and insight. Um, so are there any platforms that come to mind that you think have these characteristics that are portraying good governance and economic rationale to date that you've noted in your work?
Mm, I think there are many,
Yeah,
but for us to say that an ICO that has happened really had tailwinds, I think I don't want to make that comment because
sure. Yeah.
the given the rapid changes in regulatory conditions and all those kind of shifts in public interest,
Yeah.
to me this is really a challenging question
Mm-hmm.
because I would think that any successful ICO must have made some good strategic choices.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's all about doing the right thing at the right time.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. It
yeah, so
always
I would say
is.
many of them.
um so that was great. That's a brilliant answer. And that's right. Yeah, because it is really moving fast. It's super fluid, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So how would you describe the literature in blockchain-based systems, as a researcher that you're, seeing?
it's growing really fast.
Mhm.
So I began um, working in this area in 2017, and I remember going to conferences where there are two talks on blockchain, and people would just like sit together saying that, oh, we have four presenters, but two of them are no-show, and we have five audience, and that's all we have in 100 people hall. So that's what it was like back in 2017, and nobody would think that this thing got so popular suddenly in 1 year. I think in 2017 to 2018, um, it was so to us researchers, the popularity of blockchain was what was unexpected, and I was so surprised that people suddenly became interested in it. And then since then, I saw more and more researchers coming into this area, and now we have a few blockchain conferences going on, like held annually in the US, and I'm
Mhm.
sure in other countries too. So yeah, it's definitely drawing more and more people now.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. I just went to a blockchain summit here in Fort
Oh,
Worth,
you did?
and there were 1,200 people, and there were two presidential candidates discussing their policy on crypto and all this. And there was a Bitcoin mining stage, and then there was a main stage with, I mean, everything that touches crypto and blockchain was pretty much discussed. So your paper really fascinated me because it's
Thank
really
you.
getting into the weeds of what is working and what is the rationale. And it's a good way to frame all this, right? I mean, we have a huge economic literature and everything else, and this area is not going away. That's for sure. One last question. So why do you think there's so much controversy and confusion about, blockchain versus cryptocurrencies? What's some of the misunderstanding in your mind?
This is a great question. And I would just answer from my personal experience. So, um, one question that I receive most frequently is, why is the blah blah coin worth money at all?
Mhm.
So people are just confused about why this digital thing um, is worth anything.
Right.
And my answer is easy. So I always tell them the value of any token should be equal to the value of the service or the product the token can be exchanged for. So in other words, the aggregate value of all the tokens that a platform issues should be equal to the total worth of the service or the product of that the platform provides,
Mhm. Right.
right? So it really boils down to um, what the service is about or what the product is like. And it also is relevant to um, token economics, like what type of token you issue, how are the tokens going to appreciate, whether the tokens are going to appreciate, and also how you are going to use these tokens to exchange for the product or the service, like the exchange rates, right? All those things matters.
Right.
And it just turns out that this requires a lot of analysis and experience.
Right.
So it's not an easy question to, while my answer is easy, it's really not easy to really understand or to really find out the true value of a token. It's
Right.
just like stocks, like you just mentioned, from for outsiders like us, when you look at a stock, all you see is whether the stock value has come up or gone down. But you you really have to know the company well to be able to have a reasonable um,
Assessment of its
estimate,
value.
yeah, assessment of the stock value.
Right, right, exactly. And that's why you get all these platforms like Seeking Alpha, crowdsourced analysis, all this, because, and that's just a lot more eyes looking at things, but
Mhm.
that's also kind of really the idea in some respects behind blockchain and crypto is that there's this transparency because of the broad ownership of it all, right? That's sort of a
Yeah,
tenet. It's a tenet, it's a belief about it, that this is more real true democratization of, of exchange and this sort of thing. And I think there's a lot of that belief behind the whole industry that's the driver, right?
right. And
Um,
what makes it more challenging than evaluating stock value is that when people conduct their ICOs, they usually only have a prototype of their product. It's not like
yeah,
stocks, like IPOs. It's only the most mature companies who have the right to issue stocks. But with ICOs, anybody with a white paper can issue tokens.
Right.
So the bar is much lower. So you really need to be extra careful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Right.
when you make an investment
Right.
decision.
Yeah, is there any thing that you wanted to add before we wrap up? Any final thoughts?
Uh, no,
But
I think I'm good. I'm all set.
okay. Well, thank you so much. That was really helped provide a lot of color and understanding of your work specifically, and also just sort of, how things are moving in this space, which is fast and vast. So thank you so much. I will